Hello folks. It's getting a little late in the evening here in Tucson, Arizona. It's about 10:15 on a Saturday night. And I just kind of got it in my head to make a quick video here, just for fun. This will be the first video I will have put up on my channel since I made a tribute video upon the passing of the great Irish accordionist Joe Burke. And I posted that up right about February 21st or 22nd, as I recall, right after learning of Joe's passing over in Ireland. Imagine my surprise when the video gained quite a lot of views, at least as far as a nobody like me is concerned. At last count, it had 27 or 2,800 views, and that is like exponentially more than any other video I have ever made for my channel. So, be that as it may, the purpose of this silly little video is just simply do a little show and tell about a cheap German fiddle that dates back to about 1870 or 1880. I call it German, but there's a chance that it actually was made over near the Bohemian border back in the day. The F-holes are quite wide. They're quite fat and unusual looking because they have the strong curlicues at the end of the wings here. These strong curlicues. That is a characteristic motif of a lot of early Bohemian violins. It was sort of a concept. Now you occasionally would see it elsewhere, but it was strong in that region. So I suppose there's the possibility that this is actually a Bohemian violin made somewhere, possibly even Prague. City of Prague or some other lesser town like Schönbach. I suppose there's a possibility that that is the case. However, it seems to bear some other possible German characteristics. The scroll is not shall we say, a complete amateurish job by any stretch of the imagination. It's actually quite well done. I actually rather like the scroll, to be quite honest with you. I think it's quite well done. In fact, the more I look at it, the more I like it. I had to put a shim underneath the fingerboard to bring up the fingerboard projection down here. I also had the top off and I put in a new bass bar. I did some regraduation, although I think I left the back alone, if I remember right. And it's got rather tall ribs, so there's a large interior air volume on this violin. Another interesting feature of this violin is the unusually attractive and tonally advantageous arching to the top of the violin. This arching is very attractive to my eye. I also like what was done with the back. So overall, for a cheap violin, it's actually got some rather attractive characteristics. I kind of like this shading job. Not uncommon in Bohemia, especially amongst some of the productions from the Józek enterprise in Prague. Reminds me a little bit of that kind of stuff. Little shaded areas wiped away on the sides here. Kind of interesting. Overall, not an unattractive violin. However, it's got kind of a slightly unusual sound. which is partly the result of a large internal air volume chamber. But this violin was given to me by a friend in Indiana. He lives in Lafayette, Indiana. I don't know how he acquired the violin. I think it was given to him, of course. But he didn't have any use for it. And he did not find anything in it attractive enough to his eye to warrant having it restored for him. So he just gave it to me, forwarded it on to me, and shipped it out here, and just gave it to me. He said, do what you want with it. So that's what I've done. Strangely enough, over the last month or so, the violin has been shown to several interested parties who were looking for an inexpensive violin with a decent tone. Like say under $1,000. But several of those parties, they all passed on this violin and moved on to something else. Having said that, let me just play a little ditty on it for you. Okay, let me double check my video status here. Okay, we're good. I think we're good. Yes, we're good. Good to go. My phone has been shutting itself off, alleging that their storage space has run out. So it has cut off several of my videos. So anyway, I'm losing my shoulder rest here. Nothing but consummate professionals live in this house. Consummate professionals. So anyway, there's something oddly attractive about the sound of this violin that I cannot quite explain, even though it's kind of a cheap sound. It's a... Sorry, Bobby, here, let me move that for you. There you go. So anyway, kind of a peculiar little fiddle. Nothing to write home about. Nothing to get too worked up about. Let me segue into another little story. It's funny how things happen sometimes. There seems to be a very large random factor that governs human activity. But is it really truly random? We have to ask ourselves. I don't know. I'm not sufficiently spiritually advanced to figure it all out. However, I will say this: a couple weeks ago, a friend of mine, a close buddy here in town, he found a pickup truck that he wanted to go look at up in Phoenix, Arizona. Of course, we're down here in Tucson, and excuse me. So, he needed a ride up to Phoenix to go look at this truck, and he had a real strong feeling that this was the kind of truck he was looking for. The price was right. Various aspects of the truck were just what he was looking for. It was I don't know, about a 15-year-old pickup truck, a Ford 250, as I recall. So I said, I really was not in the mood to drive all the way to Phoenix, which is a couple hours drive, and deal with it would have been after all was said and done, it was going to be about a 7 or 8 hour adventure. A couple hours up, look at the truck, putz around up in Phoenix a little bit, have a bite to eat, and then hit the road back. And, it was just going to be almost an all-day ordeal, if you know what I mean. And I wasn't in the mood for such an adventure. However, he begged me to do it, and I relented and finally agreed to take him up there. And then he says that, I grilled him about how many miles are on the truck, what's the guy asking for it, what kind of condition is this, that, and the other in, what things have been done to it, what kind of wrecks has it been in, etc., etc. Some Mexican dude who owned a glass company. This was actually one of his fleet of trucks. The back bed of the truck had actually had one of these big structures bolted to the floor of the bed to hold large panes of glass, for transport around town and installation purposes. It had been used for a commercial truck in that sense for years and years. So the truck was, in some ways, was beat up pretty bad, but actually, as it turns out, it was very well maintained. The guy just wanted to be rid of it. He didn't want much money for it. Didn't want anywhere near what I think the truck was probably actually worth. He was asking $2,500 for it. So Kenny, my buddy Kenny, begged me to take him up there. I said, okay, fine. And then he said, God damn it, I couldn't get enough money out of the ATM because my bank usually is open until noon on Saturday, but for some reason they were closed today and I could only get $700. So he begged, not only did he beg me to drive his ass up there, but then he begged me to, if I could front him the money, or at least a couple grand, in cash to secure the purchase if it turned out that he wanted to buy this particular truck. So I went, oh, Jesus Christ, Kenny, God damn it. You want me to haul your ass up there, and then you want me to buy the truck for you. So that put me in just a wee bit of a I won't say a sour mood, but just I was feeling kind of gnarly. But I finally agreed to do it, and we headed up there. But here's where the random part enters the picture. I figured, okay, I've actually checked Craigslist on a couple of occasions to see if there were any violins, interesting violins for sale by private parties in Phoenix when I've gone up there. And actually, I found, seemingly at random, I found a very fine violin made by a celebrated maker from New York City back in the early 1900s, a maker by the name of Carl August Berger. I located this violin on Craigslist, being sold by an old man up there, which I actually went up there to buy as a tangent to another reason I was there. So I figured, okay, let me just jump on Craigslist, see if anything jumps out at me. As long as I'm going to be in Phoenix, let's see if anything interesting might pop up. And there wasn't really much of anything, although there was this one geezer that was selling an old Jap fiddle, a Japanese fiddle from 1920, one of the Masakichi Suzuki factory violins made right after the First World War. And he wouldn't have been all that far out of the way from where we needed to go see the truck. So I kind of left it open once we got up there. But as it turns out, time got away from us. And we weren't able to go see that guy. So we just came straight back to town. However, when I searched for violins in the Phoenix and Tucson area, another violin popped up, which, as it turns out, was being sold by a private party here in Tucson. I would never have had any reason to search for violins for sale at this particular time in Tucson. So imagine my surprise when there was an ad for a violin with a label that said Antonio Loveri. Now, Antonio Loveri is a fictitious feller whose name is meant to sound Italian, obviously, but he was a complete fiction that was used as a trade name on a paper label inside instruments coming out of Germany, starting around 1920, as I recall. So I managed to talk to the woman who owned the violin right before we left to go to Phoenix to look at this truck, and when I interrogated her about the violin, it sounded pretty interesting, at least something I wanted to get a look at. So I asked her if she would please hang on to the violin until I could get a chance to get back to her on the very next day, which was a Sunday. She said they were running a yard sale all weekend, but she did reassure me that the violin was not going to be part of the yard sale. Well, so the next morning I arranged to go see the violin, and I ended up buying the violin. Let me make sure that we're doing good on the video here. Still doing good. The violin is completely set up like crap. It's not even worth trying to play. The bridge is crap, tailpiece is crap, the sound post is crap, everything's crap on it. But the violin itself is actually actually quite nice. Antonio Loveri, here again, which was a fictitious individual created solely for the purposes of selling violins for export to America, more than likely, or Western Europe out of Germany. And it was imported by the music firm Tonk Brothers. I don't remember where Tonk Brothers were located. They were located in one of the eastern cities. It was either New York or Philadelphia or one of the eastern seaboard cities, I believe. But they were the importers of these Antonio Loveri violins. But these were the early examples of the Loveris were actually very, very fine examples of German violin making. Fine indeed. Spectacular arching, fine choices of wood. Curly maple was all very very high grade, very attractive. Got the little scoops in the lower wings, which is kind of an attractive feature. Very finely made instruments. Exceptional scroll. Good neck angle. Perfect neck angle. Many attractive features about this instrument. Now, this fiddle used to belong to the woman I bought it from. It used to belong to her mother. And she showed me a photograph of her mother playing this violin with this bow back about 1930 something. And back in those days, they didn't have all the fraction sizes for kids. Her mother was actually too small to be playing a full-size violin like this, but back in those days, they made kids learn on full-size violins anyway. They didn't give a shit. And the kids would just struggle with the longer fingerboard, and even though their hands are small, and that's just the way it was back in those days. But sure enough, there was a photo of her mother, an old black and white photo. Mother playing this violin with this bow here. And of course, the woman got teary-eyed when I started laying down cash for this violin and for the bow, because this is a family heirloom, and but she needed the money. Makes me a little sad to think that a daughter would be compelled to sell off her mother's violin so long after her mom had played it, because times are tough and people need money just to survive. And these were obviously working class people down in the southern part of Tucson. I went down to look at this outfit, and these folks were living in a very modest little home on a funky street. And the yard sale was in progress, and I actually picked up a couple of nice things for the household from their yard sale. Gave them a few bucks. But just working class folks, good salt of the earth people. And I reassured her that this violin would get the utmost care and treatment from me. Not only just because that's what I do, but because it did belong to her mother, and it was a special instrument to her because of that fact. So I'm going to take great pains to restore this violin very carefully and get it up to optimal playing level. And then the woman wants me to play some tunes on it for her and send her a recording somehow, which I will do. So there's that. Antonio Loveri, circa 1920. I'll have to research again what shop was producing the Loveris. I'm guessing it was not Marknenkirchen. It was probably Berlin or Dresden, one of the other big cities in Germany at that time. But this here was a true bonus in the outfit. This stick had no hair on it when it came with the violin. In fact, it did not have this leather grip. The bone tip here was busted off, and the whole stick was dirty and kind of a mess. The frog had a split in the side. One of these pearl dots was missing out of the frog, and the other one was kind of cattywampus and about ready to fall out. The screw on the bow was missing its mother of pearl eyelet there. The whole stick was a mess. It was what we call an unrestored bow, as it were. But what's interesting about this bow, and what surprised the holy shit out of me, was when I was first talking to the woman. I was actually out on the highway on my way to Phoenix, and I was talking to the woman about the bow. Are there any markings on the bow of any kind? Oh, I don't know. I never really looked at it. I said, well, would you be kind enough to go get the bow out of the case and take it outside under strong sunlight and see if you can, have you got some reading glasses or something where you can look and see if there's any imprint on the stick in the area above the frog where bows are commonly fire branded or imprinted with the maker's name. She was, of course, happy to do that for me. And so she did exactly that. And she had it out in the sunlight. And I'm on the highway holding my phone and driving my car, And I said, okay, tell me what you see. Is there anything there that you can make out? And she goes, well, it looks like the first couple of letters are an H and an R. HR. And I said, really? Are you sure about that? Yeah, it's definitely an H and an R. So of course that immediately raised a flag in my head, and I'm thinking to myself, now, all right, folks, holy shit! Now let's get a grip on ourselves here and see if we can see this thing through. So I said, okay, is the next series of letters does it look like kind of a long word, possibly starting with the letter P? And she says, it is actually. It looks like it says PFR. Now she's telling me all of this while I'm driving on the road, talking on my phone to her. And she says, it looks like it says PFRETZ, maybe a Z, SCH, maybe, NER or something like that. And I said, okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate that, ma'am. I think what you have there is an H.R. Frechner bow, or at least branded as such. Whether it's from the H.R. Frechner shop remains to be seen, but it appears to be what you have. And you say that this bow was original to the outfit. In other words, your mother played this back in the 30s on this very bow, and she said yes, that was her violin bow. So of course that got me just a tiny bit excited. So when I made it over there the next morning on Sunday, to look at the outfit, sure enough, it's an HR Freshener, and not only that, but it also has the coat of arms imprinted into the upper right-hand corner of the frog. And I don't know if you can see that. So what a bonus. What a bonus. A completely undiscovered and unrestored HR Freshener violin bow. Round stick, silver mounted. Very nice stick. So I commenced to restore it quite rapidly once I got it in my possession. And I didn't like this wimpy-ass silver grip. I like a longer piece of leather here for my own playing, but the original leather would have been about half that length. And there were some remnants of the original leather on this bow. But I put a longer piece of leather on there. That can always be changed. And I also had to repair the split in the frog and do some other internal repairs on the inside of the frog. The mother of pearl slide had come unglued from its wooden backing. The top of this metal wraparound piece here, the top here had sprung up. The little nail that's used to hammer that down and keep that flush had given way, so I had to repair that. As I said earlier, I had to replace these mother of pearl eyelets. Had to clean the stick. Had to put a whole new tip on the bow. This bone piece, that is all brand new, fresh rehair job. And what a marvelous bow! What a great bow! It's only 57 grams, but it feels every bit like a 60-gram bow. It's really quite strange. In your hand, it does not feel like 57 grams. It feels heavier than that. But it really turned out nice. I'm quite thrilled to have it. And I'm still learning how to use it, actually. I'm still sort of getting to know it. So that's my little show and tell for this evening.